Shame on her. Shame on her. Shame on her.
There's no crying here. Happy Monday, everyone. Today is Veterans Day, huh? It's the day Tim Waltz recalls the terrifying combat he witnessed while watching Saving Private Ryan. That's a good one. It was a good one. I just it up. But because it's a federal holiday, a lot of stuff is closed, including banks, the post office, and Bill Clinton's pants.
Yo.
There was a big Veterans Day parade in New York City today. It was a mix of 20,000 marchers, 25 floats, and a few dozen Kenyans from last week's marathon. They always win. On Wednesday, President Biden will host Donald Trump at the White House for a traditional post-election meeting. I don't want to tell Trump what to do, but if I were him, bring a few bottles of Febreze.
Yo.
While walking on the beach Sunday, President Biden stumbled multiple times.
He pretty much saying, boy, Biden might have, pooped himself by the time you get in there, Trump. You might want to spray the room down for Febreze before you get in there.
Times. I guess that's what happens when you try to scatter your own remains.
Yo, this man.
Poor taste. Leonardo DiCaprio turns 50 today, huh? Yeah. To celebrate, he's taking his girlfriend to get her learner's permit.
Oh.
A Yale psychiatry fellow told MSNBC it's okay to cancel Thanksgiving plans with relatives who voted for Trump. Also endorsing the effort, Trump voters.
So is that not spreading the vision?
Yeah. Nick Bosa, is that his name, of the 49ers, was fined by the NFL for pointing to his MAGA hat during a broadcast. The fine will go toward promoting LGBTQ sports, also known as soccer.
All right, hold on, G. That hurt. I like soccer.
Trump has named former ICE director Tom Homan as his border czar. And to prove that he's not messing around, Homan asked Melania for her paperwork.
Are you reckless? This man
right.
got food.
That was fun. So it's postmortems galore, watching the media point fingers at everyone but themselves. But really, this is just a mass misdirection in an effort to save what's left of their credibility. And like true psychopaths, the media lacks the empathy.
I mean, trust me, it's racism, misogyny, and etc. It's everything but the fact that, the liberal party, the Democrats, y'all were just being condescending as hell. Well, overly cocky and condescending, those two C's never work together. I promise you. It always gives you bad results. And that's what y'all did. So look at the results y'all got. A blowout.
To realize that we know they're lying.
You'll be okay.
And we knew it's been them all along. So what you're seeing now is a ruse. See, the media is like the creep who gets rid of the spouse, but then volunteers to lead the search party. Except in this case, it was a disappearance of truth. And now they're volunteering to search for it, telling us where to look and actually expecting us to include them, even though they're metaphorically covered in blood. Jesus. And Brian Stelter's actually covered in tomato sauce. But they're terrified, not just of Trump, but of losing their influence. So now they're starting to sound like us.
Interesting message for Democrats. Maureen Dowd's piece for the New York Times entitled Democrats and the Case of Mistaken Identity Politics. Some Democrats are finally waking up and realizing that woke is broke. Democratic insiders thought people would vote for Kamala Harris even if they didn't like her to get rid of Trump. But more people ended up voting for Trump, even though many didn't like him because they liked the Democratic Party less.
And we got a supporter. Big Wave Dave said the same thing. He says, I do not like Trump. I don't like his character or nothing. But them policies is busting. Them policies I like them. Them policies is gonna help America get somewhere. So yeah, there's a lot of people who don't like Trump, but they like his policies. They like what he stands for, and it is what it is. I mean, let's be real. We have a lot of people that we don't like, but we respect them. And sometimes that's all you need is the respect. I mean, especially as a man. I mean, F everything else. Give me the respect first.
Now remember, that's the same duo who blamed Kamala's loss on racist black and Hispanic men. So maybe they finally ran out of people to scapegoat, and the only targets left are in the mirror, except they keep breaking those. Listen to Jen Psaki dishing out advice.
Look, I happen to believe that Donald Trump is a major threat to our democracy. Too many people either didn't buy it and didn't show up, or were willing to price in the risks because other issues were more important to them. And the answer to that failure isn't to say fascism doesn't matter. It does. Or to say everyone who didn't vote for Harris is to blame for not hearing or understanding the threat.
I mean,
it's for candidates to rethink how they prioritize what they talk about moving forward. It's to rethink how they engage moving forward. Do that Joe Rogan podcast.
Every fascist move was pretty much done under the Democrats, the liberals. So it is pretty crazy when they talk about fascism, but y'all the ones who had all these authoritarian mandates. So what's up with that? What's up with calling Trump a fascist, but y'all have all the authoritarian mandates? Ain't that crazy? And then you also believe that everybody should just think the same as y'all. And what's another definition of fascism? Being a one-party state. So it's crazy how the liberals expected us to be a one-party state, and it's kind of shocked that there's a difference of opinion. So don't y'all kind of like align with the whole fascism ideal more? I mean, for real? Think about it. Y'all wanted to be a one-party ideology. You expected everybody just to vote for one side. Aren't y'all the real fascists then?
Yes, by the way.
Little late. Jen, I'd say quit while you're ahead, but you're so far behind you need to circle back to wipe your own butt. Dems all over are sounding the alarm on what Trump will do. Geraldo suggests Trump could demand a third term.
No, really think about that. If you expected, 140 million or 100 million votes or 80 million votes for Kamala, if you expected Trump to basically get blown, now I'll be real with you, you kind of are a fascist in the literal sense, because you literally expected all of America to go one way. You wanted America to go one way, which is fascist. Us, we were cool with y'all. We didn't want everything to go red. Everything went red, but that's just how things turned out. We didn't expect it. And we're okay with y'all ideas. We don't hate y'all for them, but y'all hate us for our ideas. So you're right. Y'all have a fascist ideology right now. I mean, it is what it is, because you honestly believe that we should be of one mindset, of one. Let's be real, one party. And that's the Democratic Party that y'all all want us to align with.
Thankfully, he made this prediction while wearing a shirt. Don't worry, Geraldo. If Trump takes a third term, you'll be too old to know what a president is.
Done.
Many predict Trump will break the law or violate the Constitution. Sorry, he's not going to put the View in an internment camp. Although they could use the exercise. But they assume Republicans would go along with law breaking, like using the levers of government to target political opponents. In other words, they assume Republicans are just like them, but they're not. And it shows that the media and the Dems don't know any actual Republicans. The closest they've come is smelling one of Liz Cheney's farts in the green room. For Republicans, the Constitution, Bill of Rights, that comes first. If Trump tries to unconstitutionally take away anyone's rights, we'll be first in line to stop it. We always are. After all, isn't Trump's main promise that he's going to actually enforce the damn law, as in have a border, remove criminal gangs, restore order to the cities? Show me this great respect for the law that the Dems have. Was it during the 2020 Summer of Love when Kamala helped bail out the rioters? And Gwen Waltz kept her windows open because she loves the smell of burning Firestone radials in the morning? What about a president that's incapacitated? Isn't a president who keeps falling down supposed to step down? This guy was responsible for more spills than a waitress with Tourette's.
Make sure to like the video, guys. Go ahead and double tap that screen for me, or the three dots up there in the corner, man. Appreciate the support, guys.
And yet no 25th Amendment or forced resignation. A move, by the way, that prevented the first black woman from becoming president. And yet they accuse you of bigotry because you didn't vote for Harris.
Well.
Now, never mind that Trump increased his numbers with blacks, Hispanics, and yes, even suburban white women. Turns out Mr. Hitler himself, Mr. Racist, Mr. Misogynist, is more about inclusion than the Democrats themselves. That must be a real kick in the nuts to this woman.
I mean, for real. That's the thing. Like, it was all over the internet. You could be a Kamala Harris supporter, have all the Kamala Harris gear on you want, and you would be let into a Trump rally. And nobody have no beef with you. But if you were a Trump supporter, Trumped out and everything, MAGA hat, MAGA shirt, all that, and you even got the man's sneakers on, bro, they're gonna stop you at the door and say, look, dog, not only can't we let you in here, but we're not gonna let you in here for your safety.
And these accusations of racism are coming from people who said nothing when the Democratic Party itself rejected Kamala. Kamala's 2020 primary for president made the Hindenburg look like SpaceX. But we're the racist
Be right back, guys.
No, fact is, Kamala's about as popular with both parties as crabs are at a nudist colony. I mean, she had to appear with Liz Cheney so she wouldn't be the least popular person on stage. But it's so much easier just to call us Nazis. It's certainly easier than reporting on a candidate who can't answer a question without cackling like a hyena who's twirling on the wrong end of an electric toothbrush. But it was them who didn't want her, or they could have had her. I mean, she could have been president, used the 25th Amendment. That would have been lawful, actually. So why didn't they do that? Was it racism? Was it misogyny? Because, you know, they can still do it.
Joe Biden's been a phenomenal president. He's lived up to so many of the promises he's made. There's one promise left that he could fulfill, being a transitional figure. He could resign the presidency in the next 30 days and make Kamala Harris the president of the United States.
Whoa. See, bat crazy people can be right. If they truly believe Kamala was denied the presidency because of racism and sexism, Biden can resign right now and she can be president for 2.5 months. So what are they waiting for? They can make history or herstory. So why haven't they done it? Who are the Nazis now? Let's welcome.
Not for real.
This Hawaiian has Democrats crying. Trump transition team co-chair
Yo.
Tulsi Gabbard. The
Hey.
stuff he writes keeps.
Hey, shout out. They got Tulsi Gabbard on here. All right, bet. I have another Tulsi Gabbard video for y'all next. And go ahead and like the video, man. Go ahead and double tap that screen or the 3 dots up there in the corner, man. Appreciate the support, guys.
Newsom up at night. Founder of Public News on X and Substack, Michael Schellenberger.
Go.
His one.
Female leadership I can get behind. Tulsi Gabbard. Let's go.
Liners upset liberal whiners. Comedian Dave Landau. And she's expectant and needs disinfectant. New York Times bestselling author, Fox News contributor, Cat Tip. Tulsi, I've watched you change, and I don't think you've changed that much. I actually think the world has changed.
Very much.
But I think you noticed what I'm talking about, that it wasn't necessarily left versus right. It was about this larger environment of dishonesty.
Yes.
And that it was like pitting people against each other rather than just like listening to the truth. What role are you going to play in this fight?
That's a nice segue there.
Yes, that was no segue at all.
No, it was really incredible. As you know, Bobby Kennedy and I were out on the campaign trail for the last several months,
Simon.
and it was amazing to see how many people were coming together because they were hungry for the truth and common sense leadership that was focused on how do we actually solve the very real problems that people in this country are struggling with every single day. At almost every one of our events, I would ask the crowd, raise your hand if you're a Democrat or you're a former Democrat. And in crowds of thousands of people, there were always somewhere between like 35 to 45% of the crowd would raise their hands. Mm-hmm. And it was amazing. At the last event that we did, it was in Wisconsin. And this was just a few days before Election Day. And it was they raised their hands, almost half the room raised their hands. And the cool thing was, people in the crowd started looking around, and all like 3,000 people stood up and started clapping and just showing them kindness and really symbolizing we are all Americans who love our country, who cherish peace and freedom. And I think that's the result that we saw on election night, was Americans coming together for our country.
So, to conclude, Secretary of Defense.
President Trump is making some decisions.
Yes. Michael.
Yep, and that's true. Definitely, man, I was wrong. 75.1 million for Trump, and now we got 71.8 million for Harris. And, I guess these are all the votes finally getting turned in. It's kind of crazy. Days out to the election, we're still counting votes, but it's too late. It is too late. Trump has already won. I'm sorry. Nothing's coming back for y'all. It's okay. So don't worry. You just lost by just a little bit less, about 3 million. You'll be okay.
Always good to have you. Haven't been here in a while. You were one of the very first people to raise the alarm on the issues in California, the effects of wokeism, especially in the drug area, what it did to places like Portland and Oakland. How do you feel about this outcome and the fact that it doesn't feel like an ideological victory at all? It just feels like a voice or something.
Like a breath of fresh air. I mean, I felt the next day I literally breathed more easily. Justine Bateman from Family Ties tweeted that she was decompressing from 4 years of walking on eggshells. I think a lot of us that came from the left just lived under this and raised concerns around things like censorship or the FBI and CIA interfering in the 2020 elections, or maybe not blocking the puberty of children.
Everything that the left stood against, they started doing. And that was why a lot of them, their main players, their big dogs left, or I'd say the ones that aren't complete sellouts. Yes, I would say the ones who are not sellouts in the Democratic Party left because they realized, everything we stood on in the beginning, the reason why I was in this party is now what we promote.
Operating on them if they might.
That's why Tulsi and RFK Jr. left.
Not be sure of who they are. We were called, just like conservatives, fascists and racist and phobic, raising very legitimate questions. I mean, it really culminates this year where we see this attempt to basically incarcerate President-elect Donald Trump, while at the same time accusing the Republicans of being the fascists and wanting to undermine democracy. So I think for a lot of us, those of us that have had this experience, I mean, the conservatives were beat up for so long, and now I'm very sympathetic. A lot of us lost friends, lost communities over this transition. So it feels like a hard reset and a necessary one for the country.
Yeah, I think we're going to talk about it in the next block. I do think there's a way to get people back together, but it has a lot to do with...
I'll say once we get some of these policies in and, some of these people start figuring out, oh, well, damn, hold on, no tax on overtime, I'm pulling in some bread. Oh, wait, no tax on tips, say less. Once some of these policies get enacted, once we send all these immigrants back and, there's more jobs and people feel a little safer and all that good stuff, the tariffs get enacted, jobs start coming over here. They'll come around.
With ego. There's a lot of bruised, damaged egos out there. Speaking of Dave.
Yes.
Where have you been able to handle this week? You were in where? Were you in Detroit?
I was in Detroit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was talking to people. I was amazed that Michigan turned red. And then meeting with people in Detroit, I'm surprised that county didn't, but I think it was close to 50-50. But it's been an exciting week. I mean, you're watching them now try to explain their strategy, which is don't do the #1 podcast in the country. And it's like, what would they talk about? It's like, well, Joe does jiu-jitsu, and that involves being on your back, and that's how Kamala got this far in the first place.
Damn. Okay.
She deserves that joke. She lied to us.
And also the idea that she's just going to step in real quick for Biden is the saddest participation trophy I've ever seen.
Shouldn't he resign though? Look, we're racist for not voting. He's racist for not stepping aside.
I don't know who's president. I mean, I don't think anybody does.
That's fair to say.
It's the best.
I mean, we didn't vote for a black woman and we're racist. So what you mean? Biden didn't want to step aside for a black woman. Now he should be racist too. Wait, well, Biden been racist. What you mean? Crime bill, stood up for segregation, got a black kid up out the pool. It's like, come on now. Biden been racist. Ain't nothing new.
It's the best. Clearly, we didn't need one, Kat. Kat, are you still riding? You were traveling this weekend. How were your audiences?
Later, Seth.
Personally, I'm still high. It's a natural high, but I'm very high.
Very happy.
Yes.
Yes, very excited, very, very happy. Would it be funny? So, by the way, I'm not sure that Joe Biden even voted for Kamala.
Yeah.
To be honest, he didn't want to step down. Okay,
Yeah.
so, but would it be funny for him to step down for one day?
Yes.
Obviously, he's not qualified. He shouldn't be the. I get it. We don't have a president. Everyone who says that is correct. But how would that be? Like, because it'd be like giving someone something and then she has to. I'm just giving him a tip if he wants to play any mind games. Because she would have to then act really grateful and like, what is she? What kind of speech would you give if you're president for a day? That sounds like a movie from the '90s starring Macaulay Culkin.
Yes.
But she'd have to take it seriously.
And she would technically be president, so she'd be the 46th, though.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
It's almost like people become president when, like, she was probably acting president when Joe Biden was like out.
He should make it a big deal.
Yeah.
Have her be president for one day, and I want to hear what she says about it.
I'm gonna be real with you. Like, Biden's the one, this is me and Key's wild conspiracy that Biden's the one who sunk her campaign. Biden did not want Kamala Harris to win. Bro, you can't say you wanted Kamala Harris to win and then pretty much Booby Trapper was saying that, oh yeah, what you mean? Everything that I wanted to do, she's still right beside me. And I know y'all ain't like me, so y'all know y'all ain't gonna like her. Then days before the election, called Trump supporters trash. I mean, bro, you can't tell me this man didn't know what he was doing at a certain point. I don't know. I just really feel like, that man Biden wanted Kamala to lose. He's like, oh, y'all gonna get this fake black woman the election? Hell no. And he's ruined it. But all right, let's hear that toast.
That will be rethought. Let's talk about everybody else and what matters here. The fact that we have all these troops in the region, this is an issue of sensitivity for you about where America is and why. Do you believe that this is something that will be rethought by the Trump administration?
Well, thank you, Chris. It's good to be with you on your show, and I appreciate you recognizing our veterans, my brothers and sisters in uniform, and the many challenges that our veterans in this country still face alongside their families. And to me, the most important commitment that veterans and servicemen and women should have from our leaders in this country, the best way to recognize that service and sacrifice and to say thank you is to make sure that our men and women in uniform are only sent into harm's way or only sent to war as a last resort after all measures of diplomacy have been exhausted. Now, this is one of the many reasons why I think so many Americans turned out to vote for President Trump is because he understands this. And we've seen how through his last administration, he didn't just talk about ending wars. He actually went out and did that work of direct diplomacy. He went out and met with dictators and adversaries in that pursuit of peace for the American people. So in his next administration, and he was very vocal about this throughout this presidential campaign, that his goal is to end wars.
I think Kamala brought this up. I mean, not Kamala, but Keenan brought this up about Kamala earlier. I'm sorry, but Key. It was wild because he was telling me that, so ain't it kind of weird how, she ain't talked to Putin? I think Trump exposed that during the debate. If you were listening correctly, Key definitely did say her correct. He's like, Trump called her out. She didn't ever met with Putin, but she bragged about meeting with Zelensky 5 times. And we're like, well, the over-dominating force is Russia. So why wouldn't you want to meet with Russia as if Zelensky can stop a war? Like, what you mean? He throws his hands up, nobody cares. Russia can keep on going. Russia throws their hands up, the war actually stops.
Not start them. His goal is to prevent World War III and nuclear war, and spoke many times about things that Kamala Harris never brought up during her campaign about how he understands the seriousness of the stakes and the threats that we face as the American people, specifically because of the foreign policy decisions made under the current administration. And so I can tell you, as someone who still wears the uniform, I'm a lieutenant colonel in the Army Reserve, as someone who's deployed to multiple war zones in different parts of the world, the most important responsibility that any president has is to serve as commander-in-chief. And it's important on this day as Veterans Day, as well as you said, as every day, to recognize the best way to ensure our gratitude is shown to those who serve and their families is to make sure war is a last resort, and if it is required, that we take care of our men and women in uniform if and when they come home.
LTC, Gabbard, thank you for your service, of course, and your family. Because the whole family serves, no
Yes.
matter which member it is. The sacrifice is real. And you may serve again. What is your attitude towards being a member of the Trump administration?
President Trump is going through, and I know this is how he's spending a lot of his time right now, is looking at making these decisions about who he wants to serve on his team and in his cabinet. If there is any way that I can help achieve that goal and objective of preventing World War III and nuclear war, of course, I'd be honored to serve.
Where do you think you would be of most help to President Trump and this administration?
In a place where I can do that. There are a few different roles, I think, within this administration. But again, President Trump will make his decision, and it looks like he's already making some announcements this week.
They're coming out. We're seeing them. But you've never been one to want to play politics. Have you been active in the process, or you're just waiting to be asked?
No, I've been active.
I'm weak, though. Okay, so we got Chief of Staff, yeah, Susie Wild, and then we got Tom. Oh, yeah, everybody was complaining about this man, Tom. Tom sounded savage. He's like, what you mean? You can get deported with your kids. I was done. I was like, yo, this is the man we need. When he literally said, so how do you feel about separating families? I mean, like, what do you mean? Their kids can go with them. I was like, my man. All right, Double, let's see here. You got a decent lineup.
As a member of the transition team, as you know, Chris, there are thousands of positions that a new administration has to fill within all of these federal agencies. And so we are doing our best to try to bring people together who support President Trump's vision, specifically as it relates to national security and foreign policy, to try to prevent what happened last time, which was he ended up with some neocons around him who were trying to, and I saw this as a member of Congress, they said yes to his face, and then around his back were trying to undermine his objectives so that they could feed their goals of continuing to keep us in a perpetual state of war to the detriment of the American people and our troops.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get you, but you got to be careful with just putting loyalists around you right?
Yeah, Trump is staying true to his word. He's picking the right people. Now, like I say, he was in there once, he got bamboozled, he said never again.
I mean, you want better minds to the extent that you can have them.
It's people who are committed to the Constitution, who support our democratic republic, and the mandate that President Trump has been given by the American people in this election through the popular vote and the electoral vote to reject the neocon warmongers and actually work towards bringing about peace.
So let's talk for a second about what that looks like. The 40 to 50,000 that we have in the region, is that something that should be on the table for reassessment? Because I don't care where they are, they're certainly not completely safe. So is that an okay risk for America now?
I'm sure this is on President Trump's mind, and he will look to see where our troops are, where they are in harm's way, where they are based around the world, and make his decisions as commander-in-chief.
Starting to making some negotiations here. Like, all right, let's make some negotiations so we can get our troops out of there, or we see we need to leave our troops in there for stability reasons. Let's see what we got to do. Because right now, it just look like we've been stalling in a lot of these conflicts.
All of these examples of does their presence, does their deployment, does their mission actually serve the best interests of the American people and our national security? He's obviously been very vocal about what that means and what that looks like throughout this campaign, and that assessment will come.
Hey,
let's talk about...
And shout out Tulsi Gabbard. Now, let's go into one of Trump's other picks as well, though. Because he said Rubio.
Now, and with what we've seen on the ground.
Because, you know, these lefties are losing their mind over every person he picks. Over every person he picks, they got a harsh critique of. So, you know, expect the worst.
I want to start this evening with CNN's Jim Sciutto, who is joining me on the phone on this breaking news. Jim, I just want to first get your take on hearing that it doesn't appear this is formal yet. But if Trump is leaning in this direction, and that is what all of our sourcing is indicating at this hour, what the significance of a Marco Rubio as a Trump pick for Secretary of State would be in your view?
For one, it very much, Caitlin, puts China at the center of Trump's foreign policy, the combination of Rubio and Waltz, both of whom are big China hawks. Rubio's portfolio on China goes back years. He's drawn attention to China's trade practices. He's pushed for restrictions on selling advanced technology to China. He's highlighted China's mass incarceration and forced labor of Uyghurs in Xinjiang, as well as China's intelligence gathering inside this country. So
he on their ass.
Long resume on China.
All right, finally, we got somebody on China's ass, as somebody should have been. I mean, y'all spent so long focusing on Russia, China was running amok. Now, shout out this man, Marco Rubio, gonna step in there as Secretary of State and be like, yeah, China, y'all ain't getting away with nothing no more. Yeah, all them wheat farms you was starting up over here in Oklahoma, done. Oh, yeah, the money you sending to the cartel, hopefully we can intercept that somehow, some way. But, yeah, we're gonna put a spotlight on you now.
And listen, it shouldn't be surprising, given that Trump himself, of course, has made China a target both of his national security policy, but also his economic policy, the discussions during the campaign of imposing significant tariffs on Chinese goods. This would bring to his team a Rubio and a Waltz, two individuals with history there and focus on China. I'll say this as well, that given the concern about some of Trump's foreign policy positions, particularly among Democrats, the outgoing Biden administration, but also some more traditional Republicans, I think it's safe to say that both Rubio and Waltz are not out there, as it were, right? That their positions on China are very common with other Republicans, but also, frankly, it's a bipartisan position right now in Washington, a far more aggressive China policy, both in terms of national security and trade. Their positions on Ukraine, for instance, Rubio has been a skeptic of additional aid going there. He, like other Republicans, has said it's time to bring the war to an end, but he is not a Republican who has praised Russia. He's not a Republican who has denied Russia's blame for the invasion, right? So even as he has been skeptical of additional aid, he's not from the wing of the Republican Party that has questioned whether the U.S. should have been there in any way at all before.
Okay.
Yeah, certainly a different view in that sense. Of course, the question is what happens now and with what we've seen on the ground. Jim Sciutto, thank you for that. And on this breaking news, I also want to bring in CNN anchor and chief congressional correspondent Manu Raju, because Manu, as we were looking at this, I just want to note what Kristen Holmes is reporting on top of this. She says that she heard from a source this morning who thought Trump was leaning toward Rick Grenell, of course, who served as his acting director of national intelligence. Before that, the U.S. ambassador to Germany. We know Senator Bill Hagerty of Tennessee was also in the running for these two positions, though he seemed to have fallen out of the contention a few hours ago. Manu, though, when you look at this, if this is what Trump ultimately formally goes with, and a caveat there just because it's Trump, I imagine Rubio would have a pretty easy time getting confirmed in the Senate.
Yeah, no question about that, Caitlin. In fact, if it were Rick Grenell, that could potentially have been a problem for some Republican senators here. Rubio is different, though. He's been a long-time senator. He's got a lot of allies in the Senate Republican Conference. He's one of those senators who has straddled both the Republican establishment world and the Trump MAGA world. And
so he has connections throughout his party, too. So when it comes to getting some of these things pushed through, he's going to be the main people talking to the Senate, the Republican Senate, like, hey, yo, yeah, let's get this through, guys. Damn, when they talking about almost some in control, they was not lying.
He has, despite of all of his criticism against Donald Trump back in 2016, he has very much aligned himself and been a chief defender of Donald Trump through his 4 years in office and on the campaign trail and the like. And his foreign policy views do align to some extent with the Republican establishment, but he also has broken with them as well. He did vote against the big foreign policy bill of this past year. That was a $95 billion aid package that included aid to Taiwan, aid to Israel, aid to Ukraine. He called it legislative blackmail, that bill. He contended that it should not have been all tied together. Should have done more should have went after border security issues as well, even as Ukraine was clamoring for that money at that critical moment earlier this year. So he has broken from a lot of his colleagues, including the Republican leadership, on that issue, but he is very much on Trump's side here. And assuming this pick goes through, I do expect him probably have no problems to get confirmed. But if he is confirmed to this post, then that opens up a vacancy in Florida for a Senate seat. This would give the governor there, Ron DeSantis, the ability to name a replacement to that post. So it would not affect the current balance of power right now. But I can tell you, without talking to too many Republicans at the moment, with this news just breaking, I will be talking to a lot of them tomorrow. I can expect many of them will be happy to hear this news if it does happen. Marco Rubio getting this major pick for Secretary of State, someone they believe can carry out America's foreign policy effectively on the world stage.
All right. So shout out Marco Rubio, man. Hey, the way he sounds like he's on China's ass and he's on these foreign adversaries, you know, he put these foreign adversaries on his watch list. I like it. We need more people like that. We need more people like that.
You know, and the Daily Show was kind of an answer to what was happening in the Bush administration and I think Fox News at that time. And Jon Stewart kind of became a symbol for people who felt.
And make sure to like the video, guys. We're going to go ahead and get into this Piers Morgan. This should go ahead and be a good one here. Let's see. And let's go.
Trump doesn't know what he said or why he said it. How hard is that job? And who's the best type of person for it?
So one, thanks for the trip down memory lane. I appreciate that. I now I understand Anthony's comment at the beginning. It makes a lot more sense in context now. I'm just kidding, of course, but I get it a lot more why he started the interview and the comment he made. Look, it is a tough job. I came into it, I think, with a sense of a traditional nature of trying to. And what I think he needs to do is make sure, or frankly, the opposite, what the person who takes this job needs to do is understand that Donald Trump speaks for himself. And that if you're going to go out there and make policy pronunciations or directives or personnel announcements, you better be darn sure that you have the best and latest information when you go make that comment. It's one of my lessons learned from working with him. I just assumed too much at times that where I thought he was on a position, instead of continuing to confirm what he thought, or because I relied on sometimes staff and others. But anyway, I think the person that takes these high-profile jobs in this coming administration better be certain when they speak on his behalf that they know exactly what he thinks.
And just on that point, Anthony, I'm going to come to you, Larry, in one sec. But Anthony, just on that point, unlike Sean, who stayed loyal to Trump, you turned on him pretty savagely.
Damn.
Why?
The guy, hold on a second. The guy went after my wife on Twitter. Okay, I gave the guy $1 million for his campaign. I gave him hundreds of hours of media advocacy.
And congrats. The only person that should be having beef with Donald Trump is this guy. He went after his wife. That's real understandable. That's respectable. With the rest of y'all, what y'all have towards Trump, bro, it don't even make sense. Don't even make sense. But all right, though. Let's hear out my man Sean Hannity interviewing Stephen A. Smith on this
Publicly, he's a friend of mine.
Cause man, he's probably the one liberal, the one Democrat who ain't crying and who's just taking it in as it is.
We don't agree a lot on politics. It's ESPN host. He's a rock star. As far as I'm concerned, there is no ESPN without my friend Stephen A. Smith. I watched you on The View today. How you doing?
All right. How you doing, Sean? Congratulations on the election, the results. You called it. You said it was going to happen. I can't refute it. I can't refuse the fact that the president of the United States, the president-elect, is well deserving of it. It was a romp. It was an annihilation. I know a lot of people are trying to, label it like, he won a little bit in a lot of different places. I don't want to hear that. He won, and he won in absolutely convincing fashion, so much so that I think that in light of those results, we have to look at this election as a referendum on the Democratic Party in America, saying we're not feeling where you are. We're not feeling where you tried to go. We want no part of it. We're not having it. And they made their choice, and we all have to accept it.
And you were very gracious, by the way. Privately, we have our own conversations, and you said that to me, and I'll live with it. And I've had elections that I really wanted my side to win, that they lost. And you know what, Stephen A., I go on, and I plow through, and I do my job. There's not going to be retribution.
That's all you can do is just like, oh, okay, it is what it is. We lost. We're not going to go ahead and make a whole social media campaign over and start crying on camera. Like, God forbid anybody does that. Like, yeah.
None of the hosts of The View are going to be taken off. I used to go on that show. They wouldn't even they wouldn't accept a conversation with me at this point. Isn't that pretty pathetic? Because I used to like Whoopi Goldberg. Joyless Behar,
listen,
she's a little, yeah.
I would ask that you don't look at the show. What you look at, what you should look at is the ideological tilt that has taken place in our country. We've gotten to a point where, God forbid, somebody has a difference of opinion and a different form of ideology.
I don't even think it's an ideological tilt. It's just that, well, the Republicans became the 90s Democrats that I think we all wanted to align under. Yeah, that's the problem. Like I said, we ain't leave the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party left us, and it's wanted to supplicate the feminists and gays.
Then you're damn near the Antichrist. And that's not what makes this country great. I
really
mean, the
got 'em
reality
done.
is that, you know what, we could sit up there and we could say what we want, and everybody has their different opinions about Donald Trump. You know how I felt. You knew why I didn't vote for him. I don't like the way he behaves. I think the presidency is a statesmanship position, and I think that level of hubris that he's accustomed to showing needs to be dialed back significantly. But having said that, the bottom line is simple. You can look at a lot of things on the right or the left. He talked about the economy. Okay, Biden inherited, what was it, like 1.5% in terms of inflation. It ballooned to over 9.1% before it got dialed down a little bit. We looked at open borders. Barack Obama was once considered the deporter in chief because he actually deported more folks than Donald Trump. But Biden comes into office, and the first thing he does, day one, executive order, he opens the borders.
Yep.
And obviously that created so much tension. And then
And for those of y'all who don't know, like, oh, where's the wall? Trump built the wall and Biden got it taken down. He literally sued states to take down Trump's wall, his water wall that he had in the rivers to keep these immigrants out from swimming over. Yeah, Biden sued Louisiana to take those down. He sued Texas to take down their walls and everything. So yes, the Biden administration deliberately opened the border. It made it easier for immigrants to get over the border. Deliberately.
Look at the culture wars, the identity politics, some of the transgender issues that people were bringing up in terms of individuals.
And that is one of the reasons why Kamala lost, if you liberals didn't know.
Transitioning from male to female and wanting to participate in female sports and stuff like that, or sharing the same bathroom as females and all of this other stuff. America said, hey, we're not down for that. We're not going for it. And no matter what you try to throw in our direction, that's not what we're concerned about. We're primarily concerned about the economy. We're primarily concerned about our borders and about being safe. And they voted that way to send that message. And all we've heard over the last couple of days is folks going absolutely bat crazy because the candidate that they preferred to win didn't win. And I just want to take a moment to remind everybody this is America.
I disagree, Cool
Guess
Bean.
what? Sometimes you don't
disagree.
get what you want. But we are known for having intestinal resolve and making sure we're able to march forward and work with whichever candidate ends up being in office and winning, and find a way to work with one another and reach some degree of compromise so we have civility in this country instead of chaos. It's going to be up to Donald Trump to contribute to that, no doubt. But the way I've seen some of the Democrats reacting since Kamala Harris lost, to be quite honest with you, is utterly ridiculous. I'm not going to get into any names, but it's been utterly ridiculous.
Man, one thing, when I'm on your show, I do all the talking. When you're on my show, I let you do all the talking. We kind of have this unspoken agreement because I always, but together when we have conversations, they're really thoughtful conversations. They're real. We keep it real. Okay. You always tell me to stay in my lane politics. I tell you to stay in your lane sports. But you're making a lot of sense tonight, and they would be wise to listen to you. And more importantly, the spirit in which you're telling
Bro,
it.
he's literally the only person in the Democratic side that's honestly, taking accountability. He's like, yo, we missed this one. The reason we missed it is because we played too hard into certain things that didn't align with the American people. We did not align with the American people, a majority of them. And instead of sitting here trying to call everybody racist and misogynist, which we're trying to call like over 70 million people racist and misogynist, like y'all just setting yourself up to lose the next election. If anything, at a certain point, the Green Party and the Libertarian Party is going to have a better chance than the Democrats. Y'all are almost going to kill the entire Democratic Party if y'all keep pushing this. You know that, right?
And I give you a lot of credit for that. Here's where I see it, and tell me what you agree or disagree with. They could not run on one thing that they could point to where we were better off than we were 4 years ago. One major thing that improved the lives of the American people. The campaign ended with, you're a racist, you're a Nazi, you're a fascist, a misogynist. Even Barack Obama and Stacey Abrams calling African-American men misogynists and sexist. Stacey Abrams says they're racist.
Oh, you said my mic cut out, guys. Are we good?
And a lot of what they said was just flat out lies. Kamala told us for 3 years the border was secure. It was not. Everybody knew it wasn't. She said for 3 years that inflation was transitory and denied that we had an inflation problem. She also lied during the campaign, her final argument. She told American women, she told them that Donald Trump's going to sign a national abortion ban. That was a lie. She said Donald Trump will limit your access to contraception. That was a lie. She said that he would ban IVF. That was a lie. She tried to scare seniors and say that he's going to take away your Social Security and Medicare. He promised he would not do it. Benefits went up in his first term when he was president. So analyze that strategy. You can't run on what you did or what you succeeded at. So you're going to go to the lowest level, tell lies, and call people Nazis and fascists. Not a good strategy, Stephen A. Not nice either.
Well, I'm not going to deny that it's
Man, and make sure y'all like the video, man. Go ahead and double tap the screen or the 3 dots up in the corner, man. We appreciate the support here. And cool bean. I believe we've actually debunked that on the show before, where, bro, we pay for more for these illegals than they generate in tax revenue. And then think about this. Some of these illegals come over here and work under the table. So what tax revenue? It's literally a myth. It's literally a lie that the left put out there. Like when they said immigrants commit 3 times less the crime, even though they got a smaller sample size to compare it to. Yeah, it's the same thing. It is literally a lie that immigrants come in and they give us more tax revenue than they take from us. That's a lie. I mean, didn't the TPS program prove that? Didn't the fact that some of FEMA's funds was going to immigrants, didn't that prove that? The fact that we're actually over here shuffling funds for these people? Like, think about it. If they were funding themselves, you wouldn't need to be shuffling funds around.
It's not the greatest strategy. I don't know if you're entirely, completely accurate in everything that you're saying, because I can think of lies that the other side as well. But I would say this to you. If you're Kamala Harris, what you could have done is lean on the reports that the economy was actually getting better, and it actually is in a good place compared to where it was. You could have acknowledged that, guess what? True. I was a bit wrong in a position. I was a bit wrong in the position that I took on the border. And obviously it's not about flip-flopping. It's about me correcting the error of my ways. She didn't do that. But in the end, I will tell you, I'll do you a favor and tell you where the biggest crime came about from the Democratic Party. You had a situation with Biden, who promised to be a transitional president. He labeled himself a stopgap, somebody that was going to come in there, sort of calm the waters, and then move out the way for a young blood to come into the fray, and new blood rather to come into the fray and be the next president of the United States. There was supposed to be a red wave in the midterms. It didn't happen. What does he do? He's the incumbent. He gets comfortable and says, I'm not going anywhere. And that threw everything up in flux. So suddenly he's debilitated a bit. The cognitive decline is something that we were witnessing. People were noticing it but didn't want to speak about it. You let him go on stage and get embarrassed. June 27th, 3.5 weeks later, you elevate her. She never went through a primary or anything like that, which raised question marks.
Bruh.
And then what do you do from there on, Sean?
It's like, bro, so Stephen A. Smith, the only person that gets it? It's like, this is the only Democrat that I kind of understands how crazy y'all was looking, just anointing or appointing Kamala Harris. Like, oh, she couldn't even win the primary. She got dogged out by Tulsi Gabbard. She called Biden, bro. She even called Biden a direct racist, and somehow y'all still think Biden was the best for black people. I mean, make it make sense at a certain point, bro. Y'all can't even rationalize why y'all accepted Kamala. Y'all can't even, bro. At this point, y'all literally let the Democratic Party, like, just, bro, ditch democracy. Ditch a primary when she's supposed to go out and prove that she's the best among her peers. She should have been up there debating at least 3 or 4 more candidates for the presidential candidacy of the Democratic Party. She should have done that. But nope, they just threw her on there, and y'all just went with it. And then here's the thing. Y'all expect her to be a good president, but y'all can't say nothing she did as vice president. And then when we call you on it, y'all want to say, oh, well, she was just vice president. She can't do much. Then why are you trusting her to do much as president?
You've got you obviously they felt they needed to do whatever they could to get votes. This is what they were doing, and it didn't work. It didn't work, and that's what you have to applaud. The American people have spoken. They said we're not going for that. We're looking at policies. We're not going for all of that.
One last question. We don't have a lot of time. She never had to explain one time why she co-sponsored the Green New Deal, $93 trillion, and said she'd eliminate the filibuster. She never had to explain her position on gun mandatory buyback. She never had to explain why she said the rioters in 2020, 574 of them, won't stop, shouldn't stop, and she won't stop supporting them. She never had to explain. She never had to explain, you know, why we're going to pay for free sex change operations for illegal immigrants. Can I help you out? And give them amnesty when they don't respect our laws. Will you agree with me? And we have 30 seconds for you to answer. That legacy media is dead. Do you agree or disagree?
I'm not going to say it's dead because I'm holding out hope that it can be resuscitated. But hold on to this moment, Sean, because it's a rarity. Hold on to this for the rest of your life, okay? I am going to agree with you from the standpoint that what was done was inexcusable because it was favoritism in the media, and it had no place in it for a presidential election. You got to call balls and strikes, and that's not what people on both sides are doing, but especially the left over the last couple of days.
I mean, we ain't got to call no balls or strikes because we won, Stephen A., but they do because they lost. And instead of just actually going like, you know what, maybe just riding hard for abortion just wasn't it. Or maybe just trying to shame people for not going with us just wasn't it. Maybe we should have some actual substance. But they didn't. So, yeah, that's the accountability y'all need to take instead of trying to call everybody a racist and misogynist. I mean, they're trying to call white women, Hispanic men, white men. Like, they're all racist and misogynist because they, like, predominantly voted for Trump. Like, come on now. Stop being so soft and stop crying.
Officially your president, whether you like it or not. He won last time, but what does it mean to you? A lot of people are celebrating. We put this event together. We had 2,000 people at our new property. We're doing a live. It was the biggest live stream on YouTube worldwide. 291,000 concurred ahead of BBC, NBC, CBS, CNN, Fox, everybody. And at the end of the event, everyone's watching, oh my God, this is going to be so great celebration. I said, Trump being a president, what does it do to you? John F. Kennedy years ago, when he became a president, he announced he's lowering taxes. When he said he's lowering taxes, you know what he said to the American people? He said, hey, John F. Kennedy, I'm lowering taxes. A Democrat, very different than today's Democratic, because today they say they raise the taxes, they clap. Back in the days, he says, we're lowering taxes. He says, this is your chance to be wealthy and make some money. If we have the clip, we'll play it for you to watch what he says in his own words.
The worst deficit comes from a recession. If we can take the proper action in the proper time, this can be the most important step we could take to prevent another recession. That is the right kind of
the 60s was one of the best times, man. A lot of everybody was making money in the 60s. So, yeah, Kennedy knew what he was talking about.
tax cut, both for your family budget and the national.
Oh, God, help, man. Ending that taxation.
The most important step we could take to prevent another recession. That is the right kind of a tax cut, both for your family budget and the national budget, resulting from a permanent basic reform and reduction in our rate structure, a creative tax cut, creating more jobs and income, and eventually more revenue. And the right time for that kind of bill, it now appears, in the absence of an economic crisis today, and if the job is to be done in a responsible way, is January 1963. The billions of dollars this bill will place in the hands of the consumer and our businessmen will have both immediate and permanent benefits to our economy. Every dollar released from taxation that is spent or invested will help create a new job and a new salary. And these new jobs and new salaries can create other jobs and other salaries, and more customers and more growth for an expanding American economy.
What's the point? The next 4 years, go to 2028, because here's how it is. Last night, everybody's arriving at 6 o'clock. okay, at this event. I told everybody, like this, it's going to be 2 o'clock, the event's over with. You know how quickly it happened? Felt like 30 seconds on how it was over with. Right now, it's 2024, November 6th. Last night, he won. Early this morning, they announced he won. It's over with, right? You know how quickly it's going to be November 6th, 2028? Like this. By November 6th, 2028, what will happen to you and your family? Where are you going to be with your current job? You're going to get a promotion? Are you going to be a manager? Are you going to be contributing more? What are you going to do with all the taxes that now it's coming back? What are you going to do with all the stuff that's going to change with the interest rate? Potentially, if it happens, the stock markets right now reacted just today. If I look at day after the election, the way the market has reacted, Dow was up 3 points.
Bro, and that's crazy because like Bitcoin ain't never seen such a surge, bro. I mean, whoa, it was at 68, now it's at 81K. All because Trump got in office? I mean, the stocks went up all because Trump went in office. Businesses done killed some of their operations overseas because what? Oh, Trump's in office? Like, I mean, bro, everybody's starting to act correctly now that we got a real leader in the office. And it's okay, guys. For all y'all be like, oh, well, when all this bad stuff happened under Trump, well, look, man, trust me, I'm waiting on it. I'm waiting on it just like you are. And trust me, we'll both be waiting a long time because only good things coming. If you pay attention to them policies, you'll see that you'll be making more money as well.
0.57%. S&P is up 2.53%.
Because for some reason, the left has lied to y'all about trickle-down economics. Yes, they've lied to you about it because you've been living through trickle-down economics, honestly, since you've been working, as you've been living in trickle-down economics.
Almost at 6,000 for the first time. NASDAQ up 3%. Bitcoin is at 76.